Good morning, everybody. We're back with another edition of Conversational Chaos, the intelligent ramblings between Jason and the Rage Monster. And the Rage Monster here, and as with always, is Jason.
Good morning.
And we have a special guest with us today. This is our first attempt at recording with a guest in the studio. And this morning we have the Canadian.
Good morning.
Good morning, Canadian. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Awful early in the morning. But we got our rig set up and we're ready to go. So, Mr. Jason, what do we have today? I hear that there's something very special for the Rage Monster today.
That's a little bit later.
Oh, boy.
Let you warm up just a little.
I don't think I've had enough caffeine. Is that what you're trying to say?
So, just so people can learn more about our guest, I have 10 quick questions for you.
Oh, okay.
So they're just single word answers.
Okay.
There's only 10.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I guess.
Batman or Superman?
No preference?
That's a 2-word answer. You can't say that. You have to say Batman or Superman.
I guess Batman?
What type of cheese do you use to make a grilled cheese sandwich?
I don't know.
You can't whisper. Just have to shout it out.
I don't make grilled cheeses. I'm the worst. I'm so sorry.
What octane of gas do you put in your car?
91?
If an animal was to attack you, which would you pick?
And survival isn't an answer. You have to pick
A
the
swan.
animal.
What's the least memorable state of the United States?
Ooh. I guess I can't remember that.
That's a very good answer.
Have you ever eaten a mayo sandwich?
No. Mm-mm.
What name would you use for an alias?
Malcolm.
Have you ridden in a helicopter?
Yes.
Pinball or skee ball?
Pinball.
One word to describe pinatas. Pinatas.
Fiesta.
Did you just say one word to describe pinatas?
Do you have one word to describe pinatas?
Stupid.
What?
Sorry.
Why do you dislike pinatas?
I don't dislike pinatas. It's sort of torturous. I mean, why would you fill a sack, basically, dress it up like something, hang it in a tree, give some poor kid a stick, spin them around in a circle till they're dizzy, and then say, all right, go to it.
How do you feel about pin the tail on the donkey then?
That's pretty stupid, too.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
It is entertaining, but the pinata thing is entertaining for the people watching, not for the person doing it. So it's almost like, do you ever go watch one of those ridiculous hypnotists, like in college? You ever have a hypnotist come to your school or
yes,
anything?
but it didn't go.
It is literally just, it's never, ever, ever volunteer. If for some reason you are susceptible, and I'll use that loosely, susceptible to hypnotism, and you go up on stage and do some really odd actions or make funny noises or whatever, don't ever do that. Don't ever volunteer. Don't even take the test for the hypnotist, because literally everybody's going to be laughing at you. It's never a laughing with you situation.
You
The
could
same
be laughing
thing
with them.
No, and the same thing with a pinata.
That's harsh.
No. Pinata, you're laughing at the whole situation. That's in good spirit.
How do you not enjoy hitting something with a stick?
Oh, I enjoy hitting things with sticks.
Well, then what's
but
the
I don't
problem?
enjoy hitting things with stick while I'm blindfolded and dizzy.
You don't have to be blindfolded. It can be on your terms.
What about the ones where you just pull the string?
There's ones where you just pull a string?
You haven't seen those?
No.
They have like 20 strings hanging out, and you just pull one, and one of them's connected to the trap door and rips open the
Oh,
trap
see,
door.
so that's more entertaining.
We had a
Okay.
That one's
pinata
worse.
at Canadian Thanksgiving.
Did you really have a pinata?
What shape was it?
Yeah.
Like horse-shaped, like normal pinatas.
Did you get it at the store or did you make it?
I didn't get it. It was provided. I don't know where it came from, but it was for the kids.
Did you get to take a swing at the pinata?
No, it was for the kids.
Okay.
How many times did they hit it before it cracked open?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't there for it. I just saw the remains.
Okay. Was that our 10 questions? Was that the last one?
That was the last one.
That was the last one?
It's quick.
Okay. Okay, that was good. That was a good 10 questions.
Sorry about the grilled cheese, though.
Oh, you don't have to
You
apologize
don't
for
eat
anything.
grilled cheese sandwiches, though? No?
No,
Do you like cheese?
I do.
Do you like butter?
It's all right.
Do you like toast?
Yes, sometimes.
We should try a grilled cheese sandwich.
I've had grilled cheeses. I just don't make them.
When we were kids, we didn't call them grilled cheese. We called them toasted cheese. I don't really know why that is.
Did you put it in a toaster?
No.
You put the toaster on
That'd
its
be
side?
kind of stupid because then the cheese would just slide down to the bottom.
If you put the toaster on the side.
No, my grandmother did have one of those toaster ovens that she used to make open-face sandwiches and cook those things.
Those are
but
fantastic.
they are pretty good.
No,
but,
the toaster oven.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh.
No, it's a good thing to have around. I've never had one, ever. My parents didn't have one. I've never owned one, and I probably never will, because I think that's just a weird thing to take up space on your countertop, along with my KitchenAid blender that takes up already a quarter of the space.
Do you make toast?
No, I do make a bagel every once in a while. I have a toaster. The toaster conveniently fits inside of my crock pot that is conveniently stuffed in one of my corner piano cabinets. So it doesn't take up too much space.
Piano?
It's a piano doored cabinet.
Oh.
So it's one of those corner cabinets where...
It's not a cabinet made out of a piano.
No, but that would be really cool. That would be a really interesting piece of furniture.
Yeah.
Cabinet made out of a piano. One of the things we wanted to talk to you about today, Canadian, is the fact that you do like to travel, right? What? Well, I know you just got back from Norway recently. Well, Norway and...
Sweden and Germany and Denmark.
Good Lord. How many countries have you been to?
Not too many. I've been to those. I've been to London.
London's not a country.
I know, but that's the only place in England I've been, in the UK. Obviously Canada, Mexico.
Or as us Americans like to call it, America Junior.
No.
I'm talking about Canadian, not Mexico.
I know. I don't like it. Where else? I mean, I've had layovers in different countries.
Layovers don't count.
I know.
Did you eat a meal there?
Yes.
Did you leave the airport?
No. I was in
It almost counts.
Istanbul for like 14 hours for a layover.
That's a long
And that's
layover.
That's when they shot down the Russian warplane.
That had to be an entertaining layover. Did it happen while you were there?
I was there. Yeah.
Where were you on your way to?
This is really silly. London.
From where?
DC.
You had a 14-hour layover in Istanbul.
It's really dumb.
It's like a 6-hour flight to London from Dulles.
7.
Sorry, 7.
8 hours back.
And what is
Did
it
you need the
to...
airline miles?
No.
What is it to Istanbul? What is it, like 10 hours?
I think it was like 10 or 12. It was long.
We'll call it 11. We'll split the difference.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty long.
So we have 11 hours to Istanbul, and then that's another probably 5 hours back to London?
4.
14 hours worth of flying for a 6-hour plane flight with a 14-hour layover. Whatever. With a 14-hour layover in Turkey.
Yeah. I ate a lot of Turkish delights. Because I just had them to sample at the duty free.
What's a Turkish delight?
Oh, man. They're like these little jelly cubes, and they can have pistachios in them. I guess I'm really not selling it right here. And then it's covered in like, no.
Or like gummy bears.
Like a gummy type thing, but it's a better consistency than like gummy bears.
So a gummy bear with a pistachio in the middle?
Well, they can have pistachio, and they can have different flavors too. Like there's like rose petal and pomegranate. And yeah, they had all of those, and you go around, sample them. They are covered kind of in like powdered sugar. It's like this white substance. Maybe, I don't know what it was, but it was really good. And when you got on your flight, they would offer you a Turkish delight.
Oh, that was very nice of them.
It was delightful.
Did you drink any Turkish coffee while you were there?
No, I don't like coffee.
Because that stuff is... I've heard... I mean, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I really don't know. But when I was living in the Middle East, that was just something you could get a lot of. There's booths all over the side of the road that sell Turkish coffee. And a lot of the guys that I would...
Booths?
Booths. Sorry, booths.
Booze is different.
Yeah, not booze. There's not booze on the side of the highway.
Never been there. Just kidding.
Booths. Booths. Is that better? Booths?
Thank you.
Okay. So there was booths on the side of the highway that would sell Turkish coffee. And a lot of the guys that I was over there with used to refer to it as liquid heroin.
Oh.
Because it was so thick and high in caffeine. Me drinking it would be bad. That would be a bad thing. You'd see something you probably wouldn't want to see. So no Turkish coffee, but you got to eat Turkish delights.
Mm-hmm.
That was totally made the trip worth it.
It never got out of the airport though.
No, I didn't want to leave.
This is a silly question. I really don't know the answer, but I think that the airport for Istanbul, is that on the Asian side or is that on the European side?
I believe it's on the European side. Because I think I think we flew over Greece.
You probably flew over Greece.
Well, I know, but I think it's on that. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Because I sat next to a Greek man. That was very nice. And he was wearing like 12 jackets on him because
you wanted to import them into Greece without paying duty?
Well, he was bringing stuff back for his friends, and it was actually ridiculous. He was like, "Can you help me get my jackets off?" Because I guess he was getting a bit warm. And he put it in. He was very nice, and he woke me up when it was time to eat. He's a very nice man. He was from, or he had lived in Baltimore.
Oh.
And he was like, "It's the greatest city ever."
Oh.
And he loved it in Baltimore. But he was going back to Greece. He told me his life story.
How old was he, approximately?
Probably in his 60s.
Oh, okay.
But he was really nice.
Maybe he was just generally cold.
Well, he was like, "I'm bringing all these jackets back for friends and family."
Oh. Were they like suit coats or like parkas?
I don't remember because I didn't get to see all of them.
It was actually 14 leather jackets.
Well, one of them was leather, but it was really funny trying to watch him put his backpack on because have you ever seen the movie A Christmas Story?
Of course.
Like Randy, like, "I can't put my arms down." It was kind of like that, but with all the jackets.
You're talking to a child that was born in the 70s. I've seen A Christmas Story about 400 times.
I think everybody in the U.S. has seen it.
Well, they play it
constantly.
They play it 24 hours straight from Christmas Eve.
Thanksgiving.
They
from
play
Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Well, they play it 24 hours straight. TBS does from Christmas Eve till like afternoon Christmas Day. So it's literally you could watch it constantly if you would really choose to do so. I'll watch it once. That's good enough. But it's a great movie. It's a great kids movie. I wouldn't say kids. It does have a couple of foul words in it.
Oh, fudge.
Oh, fudge.
It's on TBS. They cut most of those out.
They do, but I guess it really only has one bad word in it. That's when he's in the bathroom and finds out the little orphan Annie decoder that he
drink more Ovaltine.
Yeah. A crummy commercial. It's quite funny. Anyway, back to countries that you've been to and travels that you've been on. What is the most interesting country you've ever been to?
Oh, I loved Norway. Oh, wait, I forgot to say Iceland. I've been to Iceland.
Iceland?
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Scandinavia.
Are you Scandinavian?
No.
She's Canadian.
That's right. She's Canadian. I forgot that part.
If she was Scandinavian, we would call her the Scandinavian.
Well, I'm Scottish. You don't call me the Scotsman. I guess it's because I have a different moniker to use. So you loved Norway. What was so great about Norway?
The scenery, the lack of people.
Yeah, what's the population in Norway? Anybody have any idea?
I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
You had made mention, though, that the people in Norway were very nice, but they're not very welcoming of outsiders. Is that true?
Oh, so one of the areas that I went to was called the Lofoten Islands, and they're just getting a lot more tourists than they're used to. And a lot of these tourists are doing these hikes that they are not fit for, and they have to go be rescued, and some people have died even, and it's also ruining the land. So...
Ruining the land in what way? It's just like trampling the...
The increase in people, it's been exponential, basically, over the years, because all of these Instagram famous hikes, and people think they can do it, but they're ill-equipped for the hike, the weather. They don't bring like enough water or food.
Well, that's
becoming common everywhere.
yeah. I mean, happens in Alaska all the time. I mean, they say all the time you need to be prepared for everything. Even when I go hiking here, in the mid-Atlantic, I always take a backpack that always has a light coat, always has a little bit of food in it, a little bit of water. If you're going out into the wilderness and you're not prepared in some way for some sort of contingency, I don't want to say you deserved to starve to death or whatever, but you need to be prepared. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah. A lot of the hikes that we did, though, were really hard, and it seems to be different than what I'm used to in like the Shenandoah. There aren't many aids when you're hiking.
Did you just say AIDS?
AIDS, like
support,
like a hiking stick. We're not talking about the disease.
No, I was
not a lot of
talking
AIDS
about
in the Norwegian wilderness, apparently.
I wouldn't think so.
It came from somewhere. You never know. Maybe that was the epicenter. Was Norway?
Yeah, those Vikings.
Hey, they spread their seed everywhere, just like the Huns. They're just kind of all over. You talk about Vikings, the words rape and pillage come up frequently. So
this is true. But yeah, because we did this one hike that was ridiculous. We kind of scaled this. I don't want to call it a mountain, but it was kind of like that. It was basically rock climbing.
You don't want to call it a mountain.
Well, I mean, it was.
But it was a mountain.
Yeah, but it wasn't huge.
It wasn't, Mount Everest or,
right.
K2 or Nanga Parbat or something like that. It was more like the Blue Ridge.
Yes.
Without trees. Or did it have trees?
No, it didn't have trees.
Okay. It's very barren.
Really weird, mossy terrain.
Yeah.
Well, slippery?
Yes.
Wet?
Yes.
Slippery When Wet. Isn't that a Poison album? I believe it is.
There's 5.3 million people in Norway.
Oh.
5.3
million. A little bit less
million.
than Wisconsin.
That's actually sad. A little bit less than Wisconsin. Wisconsin has,
5.7.
2 major cities, right? It's got
Milwaukee
and Madison. I wouldn't even call Madison a major city. What's another major city in Wisconsin? I don't even know. I can't think of another major city.
Save you here.
Green Bay. I wouldn't call that a major city. Anyway, so you had said earlier, we went on these hikes. Who were you traveling with? The Canadian is laughing because she knows that I'm setting her up right now.
These 2 people that I met.
These 2 people that you met, huh? Well,
yeah.
Where did you meet these people? Are they friends from your hometown or?
No, they're European.
They're European?
Mm-hmm.
What were they? French? Were they?
One was
Czech?
French. One was German.
One was German. Okay. Mm-hmm. Where'd you meet these people?
Reddit.
You just got to spill the beans because I'm gonna trap you no matter what you do.
We met on Reddit.
Okay, so these 2 individuals, were they males or females?
Males.
So you traveled to Norway with 2 people you've never met. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She met them over there. She traveled to there. Oh, I guess you did. Where did you land at? You didn't land in Norway.
I landed in Frankfurt.
And you drove that way. Does Norway have a big airport?
They have
sure.
quite a
Flown
few.
straight there?
Oh, yeah. They have quite a few.
You
You can
chose to-
fly nationally throughout Norway.
What about international?
Oh, yeah, that too.
Okay.
Can you fly internationally from Norway? I would assume.
That was the question.
Yeah, I would assume you could. I mean, is there
That's an assumption.
any country you're in that has an airport? I'm just going to use Albany Airport in New York as an example. Okay,
Yeah.
that's an international airport. It's a teeny tiny airport. It has like 6 gates, but it's an international airport because it has 2 flights that fly to Canada every day.
Okay.
So
not all airports are international, though.
No, that's true. Not all airports are international. But my point is, every country has an international airport.
I don't think that's true.
Look that up. Every country's got an international airport. Because it doesn't matter. It could be a gravel strip on an island in the middle of nowhere, but the country is the island in the middle of nowhere.
Vatican City doesn't have a international airport.
Touche.
Oh.
Mr. Jason, with your Vatican City. But technically, if you really want to consider, what's the main airport in Rome? Can't even remember. I've mapped it before, and I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, technically, it does have an international airport. It's just not within the country.
I wonder if Monaco has one.
Probably.
You sure?
I don't know. We
It's
can
a
look it up.
city-state. It's like a half a mile big.
But it's the same as like Vatican City. It has access to an international airport.
That's
But also, like,
That's
most
changing the
international
rules.
airports are outside of, like, the actual city. Like, Dulles isn't actually in D.C. And Reagan's not even in D.C.
Reagan. It's some kind of a disaster show.
Really?
Yeah.
it's a
I-
nice-looking airport, though.
No, it's really neat looking, and I think that it has some sort of modern classic style architecture to it. I enjoy the airport physically to look
Because
at,
you'll probably be there for a little while.
but the problem with Reagan that I don't like is that it's not convenient. I mean, it's convenient to get to, but parking is like long-term parking is kind of a
Oh.
problem.
Well, it's meant for the people who live in the city.
That's true. There is a
You take
mean, the
the
metro
there's a
goes
metro
there.
line that goes there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's
Um,
the blue and the yellow.
But so I guess it would be a very urban airport more for that sort of stuff. But if people who live in the suburbs, like we all kind of do, it actually is more convenient to go to a different airport.
Yes.
Anyway, getting back to it. So you met these two strange people, men,
They weren't strange.
people unknown to you on the internet.
Indeed.
And then you flew without knowing these people all the way
We
to
talked
Frankfurt.
to plan what we were going to do, like what hikes we wanted,
On the
what
phone
kind
or
of
over the
food.
internet?
We used WhatsApp. Have you heard of
So
WhatsApp?
did you text or did you talk?
Yeah. Text.
No vocal
No.
speech. Okay.
No, we had group chat. So I felt comfortable. It was fine.
Did they send you a picture? of what they
No.
looked like?
So actually, when I landed, I didn't know who I was looking for.
Did they know
And
who
they-
they were?
Better and better.
Did they know who they were looking for?
No, because they didn't know what I looked like either.
Oh, this is totally insane.
So they actually ended up sending me a selfie.
At the airport?
Yeah. They parked the car and they were looking for me. And then they sent a selfie. It's like, oh, I
Did you
just
know
passed
how
you.
old they were at a time?
Yeah.
How old were they?
23 and 25.
So you were the old maid of the bunch.
Hush.
That is not nice.
I didn't reveal her
Hush.
age.
You make it sound like I'm
We're not gonna
ancient,
get
like
any more
30 or
guests.
something.
Make it sound like I'm 30 or something. Good Lord.
Maybe we don't want any more guests. Oh, I feel ancient.
I'm just kidding. It's supposed to be insulting to you.
That's not insulting to me.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, whatever. You would find it'd be very difficult for you to insult me.
So what did they? Were they still in school? Did they have
No,
occupations?
so one's a photographer. That was the German one. So he travels everywhere.
This photographer on the internet.
He was building up his portfolio.
There, exactly.
Landscape. It wasn't weird like that. And that's what counts.
What was the other gentleman's occupation?
So he was I guess, computer engineer.
Oh, good.
What did he do? He works on like smart cars. Like where
Okay.
you have like the panel in the car, like Android Auto stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a silly question. Do people who work in the smart car industry, do they refer to other cars as dumb cars or just non-smart cars?
Those are
I
just
think
cars.
they're from cars.
Just call them cars. I'm curious. I don't know. That's
Well, they're getting ready to lose the car part.
why is that?
I'm going to call them something else.
Horseless carriages? Are we going backwards? No. Because that would be awesome. Just start referring to automobiles as horseless carriages again. That'd be totally cool. Why are you both looking at me like I'm some kind of...
Like you got lobsters crawling out of your ears.
Oh my God, I got lobsters crawling out of my ears?
That's from A Christmas Story.
Is it?
Yeah. They were looking at me like I had lobsters.
Oh my
crawling out
God,
of
yeah,
my
that's
ears.
totally true. Yeah, she's right. It is
I
from
know
a Christmas
I'm
Story.
right.
And it's funny because I generally tend to remember movie quotes quite well. I don't know why. That's the dumbest thing ever. Men seem to do that. I don't, whatever. Girls don't so much. I think it's because they just don't care. It's not that they can't. It's they don't care to remember. And guys, I just think we don't care to remember. We just do. It's kind of silly. Typically, I remember. And at first, I didn't remember that, but now that you said that,
I thought it was funny, so I use it.
like I had lobsters crawling out of my ears. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to rake you over the coals anymore for your
Thank you.
seemingly what would you call that? A risky behavior. That's certainly a risky
I
behavior.
respectfully disagree.
And that's perfectly fine.
Did you have any of their contact information ahead of time, like their real address or?
No, I had the phone number and
A
their
P.O.
first
box.
and last name. No.
They don't have P.O. boxes.
I shipped everything to a Starbucks coffee. I don't know. I don't know where it was going. I don't know how your father didn't have some sort of conniption fit.
I think he's used to it.
I guess.
Do you often meet random people on the internet?
Just traveling and stuff. He doesn't, I guess, maybe agree with some of my travel decisions.
This does remind me of
Oh, no.
another instance with you, but we're not going to talk about this so much. Just because, again, I'm not trying to corner you or make you feel bad, certainly, because we've talked about this before, but I just want everybody to know that the Canadian here decided that she was going to drive cross country, which is totally awesome. I cannot wait for the day that I have the time and the inclination to actually do that. I want to. It's a daunting task. I mean, it took how many weeks to drive all the way across and back?
2.
Oh, you did it in 2 weeks? That's
I drove 8,000 miles in 2 weeks.
that's quite
Just
impressive.
me.
Yeah.
Across Canada
Canada and the U.S.
and the U.S.
I
Northern U.S.
noodled back and forth.
Noodled
Okay.
back and forth. Where did you leave from on the East Coast?
Well,
Because you had left from Canada, correct?
yeah.
You were up in Canada at the time?
I drove up from D.C. to our lake house, and then I wanted to go out west. This is right after I graduated college, and I was like, I have free time. Why not drive across the country?
Why not?
So I was not really prepared for a cross-country trip at all. So I left maybe after a week at the cottage, and then drove. So it's just a bit north of Toronto. And then I drove from there to Vancouver back with lots of stops on the way.
That's really cool. I'm jealous because that's a really fun trip, and I wish
It
I had done
was.
something like that.
What's the
as a
best
young
thing
man.
to see in Canada
Oh, that's a tough question.
other than Niagara Falls?
See, Niagara Falls is quite, I don't know.
If you like carnivals,
No.
Like
the
the
city of
Canadian
Niagara
side
Falls
is ridiculous. Like with all the touristy things they have.
and they have a million
It
things.
is nuts.
How many wax museums and haunted houses? And,
There's a lot to do.
and what is that? That's
You
Clinton
could spend
Street.
a week there,
You could.
but
Helicopter
it's not
rides
related to
and-
the falls so much. Like you can go on the Maid of the Mist, which takes you to like the bottom of the falls.
But the Maid of the Mist is from the American side.
I think you can also do it on the Canadian.
Yeah, but it's not called the Maid of the Mist on the Canadian side.
I don't know about that.
It's called the Horatio Hornblower, I believe.
What?
Let me look that up. What? The Canadian doesn't know this?
But anyway, so maybe one of the best things, I loved the Canadian Rockies. So like in Alberta, there's Banff National Park, Jasper National Park, and those are really great. So I drove from Calgary up to Jasper and then down to Vancouver in one day. I don't know how many miles that was.
Oh.
Yeah.
How long did it take? Just a day, I guess.
Like the whole day, because I couldn't find a cheap hotel and it was too cold to sleep in my car.
So I just looked it up. The Maid of the Mist is the one that leaves from the American side and returns to the American side.
Okay.
And they're all Maid of the Mist 1, Maid of the Mist 2, all with Roman numerals.
What's the Canadian one?
I'm getting there. I'm old, so using computers is, this is ancient fingers trying to use modern technology. It doesn't work so good.
We pulled you out of your rage monster out of his cave of no technology. This is riveting. So excited. watching
Whatever.
you type.
I'm not even going to bother. I believe it's called the Horatio Hornblower, though.
We'll put it in the notes, perhaps.
Okay, but we will put that in the notes. But the whole point behind asking you this question was just to let everybody know that when she did travel across Canada and back across the United States, which is, again, totally awesome, the Canadian decided that she was going to sleep at truck stops.
Rest stops.
We'll call them truck stops.
The truck stops there?
Sometimes, but other cars did too. Like it's like, or when you see your rest area.
Were they in Canada or in the U.S.? Maybe it's a cold weather thing.
What, truck stops?
No, less bad people go out in the cold weather?
Well, it wasn't. Well, it was kind of cool.
Haven't you ever seen the show Ice Cold Killers?
No.
Yeah,
No.
don't watch that show. It's terrible. That's about
This
people.
doesn't even have a good name. I don't even want to know what it's about.
Okay.
That's enough for me.
Okay.
Makes it sound like they're cold-hearted because they're killers.
That's kind of like the pun part of the name, but it's all people who like.
It's not about like fishermen fishing in ice.
No.
Ice cold killers. Watch us ice fish.
Yes. Talk about riveting material. Ice fishing. It's one of the really there's such a fine line between ice fishing and standing on the ice like an idiot.
They have a bench. You don't have to stand the whole time.
It's just
Or you can do it in your hut.
it is arguably one of the dumbest pastimes there is.
It's cutting our listenership way down.
Yes, that's right, because we have so many
a
people,
large contingent.
You're
contingent of ice
offending the
fishers. I'm sorry,
Scandinavians.
I don't. Well,
We're trying to pull them in with our special guest, and you're offending their truck stops. Their pastimes.
do the Scandos have a lot of truck stops?
Scandos.
The Scandinavians have a lot of truck stops. Did you notice?
No. They have a lot of gas stations.
Well, we have a lot of everybody's got gas stations. Everybody needs
Everybody
gas.
doesn't.
Yes, but that's like what they're... Well, they had camping sites, and you can camp wherever you want in Norway. Even on someone's personal property. You just have to ask.
Well, isn't that probably
Well,
true
can
everywhere?
They say no?
No. I don't think you can just go like... Oh, I wouldn't do it in Florida, at least.
You would or you would
I
not?
would not. Just be like, hey, sir, can I camp on your
Well, they
property?
have
Yeah.
crocodiles or alligators there.
Yeah, that's
so
also true.
wouldn't want to get eaten by
Yeah, if you were to just go knock on somebody's door, I mean, it would be really weird. But you could just knock on anybody's door in the United States and say, excuse me, I have a big
Well-
old patch of land here. Do you mind if I camp here overnight? And they're probably going to say no, I would assume. But that's just because it's a weird thing to ask.
But
But-
in Norway, it's normal. Also Sweden, too, because we just, one day, we were really tired because we took a ferry from Germany to Sweden, and it was an overnight one. We couldn't find anywhere to sleep. So we drove right off the ferry, and then when we found a lake, we just drove onto, well, we didn't really know, but we drove onto somebody's property, and we just took a nap there. And then the cows made us leave because they were very aggressive.
I've heard the very aggressive cow story before. I've been around lots of cows in my life. Grew up in dairy country, and I've never seen an aggressive cow. So
Maybe that's how they keep people off their land. You're allowed to camp here, but watch out.
They
for
they
aggressive
slowly
cows.
circled us, and then they circled our car, and then they moved to us, and then when we got to the car, they then surrounded our car, and we had to very slowly back up because we didn't want to hurt a cow, but they kept licking the car.
maybe it tasted good.
It was very weird.
They were trying to see how many licks it took to get to the center.
3.
3, apparently. So, getting back to it, you drove across the country
Yes.
and you slept in truck stops.
No, not truck stops. And I didn't do it all the time.
Just a 2-week period.
No. Well, I mean, that was my whole trip. No, I did it
Where did
when I
you stay
couldn't.
the other times?
In a hotel or Airbnb.
Now that is it's a fascinating modern thing. The
It's very
Airbnbs.
weird.
It is weird. I'm just saying it's fascinating. I think it's strange, but I would never rent my house out to somebody. I think that's just like an odd thing to do. I know that we live obviously in the Mid-Atlantic. We've talked about this, and Jason and I both live in Maryland, and we're not too far from where the Naval Academy is, which is in Annapolis, Maryland. And people I know who live around the Naval Academy will rent their houses out during commissioning week, which is the week at the end of midshipmen's
Graduation.
their graduation week. They do all these family events and everything, and people will rent their houses out, but they'll charge $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a week to rent their house. It's just so families
That's
can come
cheap.
in.
It's much more than that.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
And people live out even as far as we do. Will rent their houses out during commissioning week and still charge several $1,000s. But I think that's so weird. I would never, not that I wouldn't welcome strangers into my home. I probably would do that given certain circumstances.
I was going to say, isn't that risky behavior?
That's totally risky behavior.
But I guess if it's in your house,
And
you
it,
kind of have the upper hand.
yes, if I'm there, then we're good. But I would never just invite random people into my house. I know that my wife was really freaked out after we bought our home. It was during the summer, and we had to have cable installed, right? So I was at work. She was at the house. The cable guy showed up, and he asked at one point if he could use the bathroom. I was like, yeah, go ahead. She feels bad. I feel bad for those guys that are out on the road all day long and uncomfortable places probably sometimes. So she's like, yeah, go ahead. And this guy was in our bathroom for like half an hour. And she got really, really weirded out by it. She called me. She's like, this guy's been in the bathroom like a half an hour. I don't know what he's doing in there. It's like, well, if it goes much longer, you probably should just say something to him. And if he doesn't respond to you, maybe you should call the police because that's really bizarre. But she had this fear, this overwhelming fear that he had planted some camera or something in the bathroom. And so when she got home, or when I got home from work, she made me go check the bathroom. So I literally checked it all over the place, looking to see if he planted a camera in there. And I'm thinking, this is really weird. This is a really weird thing to do, but people do some really weird stuff. So having people in my house is not a problem. I don't mind having people in my home, even people I don't know in my home. But if I weren't there, I would be very uncomfortable with it. So it's just fascinating, this whole Airbnb thing. So how many Airbnbs did you utilize on your cross-country trip?
2.
That's not bad.
How many rest stops did you use?
Don't know.
Well, we're not talking about
Maybe
just
3.
like stops.
I know, but slept at, maybe
So
3.
2.
I didn't do
How
it
many
a
times
lot.
did you stay at the Airbnb?
One
You said
place,
it was a 2-week trip.
One place I stayed twice, like 2 nights. The other one, just 1.
So that's 3.
Mm-hmm.
Plus like 3 rest stops.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you stay the rest of the time?
Hotels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Were they like truck stop motels, or you were actually in like,
Well,
a
I mean,
Marriott or
sometimes
something?
I didn't really have a choice on where I could stay.
Well, I guess if you're driving through central Canada where there's nothing, I'm sure you stayed in some fairly sketchy places.
No.
Did you plan your trip ahead of time? Like, I'm going to drive so many miles to this.
No.
No?
No.
That is awesome.
I don't like
that
planning.
is absolutely awesome that you were able to. I've always been a planner.
Oh, yeah, I
So-
can't plan.
And it's not I don't plan things down like the 15 minutes. I mean, Jason over here has you have daily calendar, don't you? Like separate out by like 15-minute increments.
No.
He totally does. He's
No.
he's lying to you. But I swear I remember we were talking last week about it wasn't last week, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, about you like having 15 minutes to cram something in.
No, I just make efficient use of my time.
Exactly. So this is what I'm trying to say right now. Either way, I don't plan things out like that, but I plan things ahead of time. Like I would have, had reservations to stay places, whatever. I would have felt uncomfortable doing that.
See, I would have felt uncomfortable having reservations because then I have to be there by that time.
And I think that's right now, at this point in my life, that's something that I would totally do. It wouldn't bother me at all because I'm a lot more comfortable with it.
I mean, you can always find a place to stay.
You can always find a place to stay. That's true. Even if it's in the backseat of your car at a truck stop.
Indeed.
You can always find a place to stay. So while you were doing in all of your travels, I guess, what is the most interesting thing you've ever seen?
Maybe the midnight sun. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, that totally counts.
Yeah.
Can you give a little more detail? Is this like a
Well, some people might not know what that means. So
giant art exhibit? Is it a special building?
No, so I don't know exactly where it occurs because I know it occurs like in Alaska too, but I don't know what latitude you have to be at to experience it. But it's basically in the summer, there's, depending on where you are, maybe a solid month where the sun just never goes down. Like it gets close to going below the horizon, but it doesn't. So it's just 24 hours of sunlight. And so when it's like 10, it's just the sky is pink. It's like
Just
like
a constant
like
sun.
it's
yeah.
kind of dusky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we were in Sweden and Norway, we were actually above the Arctic Circle. So we got to experience the midnight sun. And it was funny because when we went back south where they didn't have the midnight sun, and when it got dark at night, it was kind of hard to adjust back to the darkness again.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to adjust and then adjust
Oh,
back.
wow.
You're just like, this is weird. But that was really cool.
The Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle both. So on whatever end of the globe you're on.
Yeah.
Anytime you're above that, you will have 24-hour sunlight at various times of the year. And the sun doesn't really go down, but it comes really close. And it basically just kind of spins around the horizon at a very, very low elevation. The Arctic Circle is 23.5 degrees south of 90, and the Antarctic Circle is 23.5 degrees north of South 90. So anywhere above that. But if you're above that, it's you're up there.
Yeah, we were completely above Iceland. That's how far north we were.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've never experienced the midnight sun. How about the Aurora Borealis? Did you get to see some of that?
No, that's in the winter, but I have seen it.
I know it's
okay.
in the winter. Canadian, I know that.
Said she was there in the summer.
I know, but I'm not specifically mentioning Norway. I just mean in your travels in general.
Yes,
Canada.
Yeah, have you ever
I've
seen
seen
Aurora?
him. I saw him on my flight home from Alaska.
Oh, really? You saw him on a flight? That would have been really neat to see.
I just saw it from Alaska all the way through northern Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool.
How about
it dancing?
How about you, Jason?
No,
not
yet.
No. I know we haven't talked too much about this. I know you haven't traveled outside the United States.
No.
Ever, right?
No.
Never? Not even to Canada?
Nope.
Have you been to like Bermuda?
No.
No, he's never left the
outside
United States. He's never left the continental United States.
I've left continental.
Where'd you go?
He went to Hawaii.
Oh my God, that's true. You did. Okay,
Yeah.
I guess so. That's true. But that's a really cool place to go that a lot of people will never go to because honestly, from the East Coast, it's a long trip. It's like a 12-hour, just flight time is almost 12 hours. I think it's 11.5 hours to Honolulu from Dulles.
Do they have direct flights?
You can take a direct flight, but most flights don't.
Horrible.
Oh God, I had a 15-hour flight direct from Dubai to Dulles once. Oh God, that was a horrific experience. I mean, it wasn't too bad because at least one seat next to me was empty and I was sitting in a window. So like the middle seat, it was a 767, so it was a 343 configuration. So there was an empty seat next to me, but there was a young French woman sitting in the aisle seat, and like halfway through the flight, she dumped a can of like Sprite. Basically, it wasn't Sprite; that was some European brand of soda that was like Sprite. Dumped it all over that seat, so I couldn't even use it to like put my feet on or anything. It was pretty terrible.
Seat next to you?
The seat next to me, yeah.
How would you put your feet on the seat next to you?
Raise the armrest, turn sideways. I had a window seat, so I could lean up against the bulkhead or the fuselage, and I could put my feet on
She did it
on the
on
seat.
purpose.
Maybe she did. Honestly,
That would weird me out
I
a
was
little bit.
I was so spent. I had just spent several months in Afghanistan, and I was on my way home. And
You're just gonna curl up in a ball on the plane.
yes, absolutely,
It's the way to do it.
absolutely. If you have an opportunity to curl up and sleep on a plane, I can't sleep on a plane. It's the worst. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the dry air, if it's because I think the pressure in an aircraft is roughly at like 5,000 feet or so. It's kind of at that weird elevation that if you're not used to it, it can bother you. It kind of bothers me a little bit. So I don't sleep on airplanes. I can't drink. God forbid. If you ever I tried once to drink a couple of gin and tonics on an airplane to get me so that because it was a long flight. I was flying from Newark to Milan in Italy. And I remember thinking, I got on the plane. Of course, it's a red eye. You're overnight. And I remember asking the flight attendant, like, yes, gin and tonic. So I had 2 Tanqueray and tonics. And I'm thinking, this is great. It's going to make me tired. I'm going to fall asleep. No, it just made me more hungover. I felt horrible. We landed in Milan. I hadn't slept in 24 hours at that point. It was miserable. It was like, I hate long duration flights. I would rather have, going to places like that, I would rather have 8-hour layover in London or in Istanbul.
Really?
Yeah. Because it kind of breaks up the trip. Those long duration plane flights, I'm not a big fan of them. Especially if I'm not doing anything. Like it's one thing if I were like an operator of a sensor or some kind of equipment on an aircraft and I was doing my job while on a plane, it wouldn't bother me as much. But just to sit there and occupy yourself for hours, I don't mind 5-6 hour plane flights. They're not a big deal. But as soon as you get over 6, 7, 8 hours, oh God, it's just absolutely brutal. A brutal flight.
You can't walk around or
Yeah.
it gets tough.
You should do a layover in Iceland. They have extended layovers.
Yes. Years ago, it was out of Baltimore. It used to be I think it was the East Coast hub for Iceland Air at one point. So you could get all sorts of flights to Europe from Baltimore. And they were cheap on Iceland Air, but there was a caveat. Say, hey, we will give you this cheap flight. And we will give you 2 days 2 nights of a hotel stay in Reykjavik. So you could buy these flights that were fairly inexpensive to Europe, but you had to stay 2 nights in Reykjavik to get it, and that was kind of their way to get people to come into the country and spend their tourist dollars and that kind of thing. And I never exercised that.
You should have.
I should have, but I know that Iceland for the last probably 20, 25 years has spent so much time and effort trying to get tourists to come to the country, and I think they've done a good job because like the population of Iceland is small. It's like 500,000 or
No, I don't. It's like I don't even
like
think
that.
it's that. I think
it
it's
might
like
be
a 250,000.
like 300,000, something like that.
Yeah.
A guy I used to work with, funny enough, I actually married an Icelandic woman, and he said they get to go there. They go there every year for like 2, 3, 4 weeks, and he said it's the weirdest thing because her parents they live outside of the city. Like Reykjavik is where most of the people live. He says once you get outside of that, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And they own like this big piece of property on like the end of this fjord. And he says you can look out the window and see the nearest house, but it's like a mile away. I mean, it's just there's nothing out there at all. So no, I never exercised that. I'm not a big fan of like long duration plane flights, but
that one there, it's not that long. I forget what it is because I've had layovers there, and then I also went there.
That can't be 5 hours. 4.5 hours, depending on what airport you're leaving from.
Yeah, I flew from BWI to there. Wow Air.
Wow. It's pretty spectacular.
It was $300 round trip.
That is cheap. Yep. That's why I call it Wow Air.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to pay if you do a carry-on, like $50 each way.
Right.
But just don't do a carry-on. Or, I mean, not a carry-on, but like
a
checked bag. Yeah.
Population of Iceland is 330,000.
Oh, I thought
a
it was
little bit more than
230.
Madison, Wisconsin.
I like how Wisconsin is a reference point.
Exactly. Why is it we're using Wisconsin as a reference point?
That's the least memorable state.
Oh my God, is it really?
No.
Jason.
We can't remember.
Now, talk about alienating listeners. Now pretty much
that's why I'm giving them so much.
Everybody from Wisconsin's like, hey, wait a minute. No, the least memorable state has got to be Delaware.
What?
No.
It's got to be Delaware.
No.
It's got to be.
I don't agree with that.
I don't know.
How many states have you been to?
Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know the exact number, but I'm in the 30s, in the low 30s, probably. I love to travel and stuff. Obviously, having children the last decade, I haven't had much of an opportunity to do a lot of traveling. But I love to travel to different places that I've never been. I've been to every state on the eastern seaboard, from Maine all the way to Florida. And the way that I count...
Have you been to Rhode Island?
I have been to Rhode Island. Mystic Seaport, which is actually near the Rhode Island-Connecticut border, is actually a really, really cool place to go. It highlights kind of the whaling industry that was in New England back in the 1800s. It's a really neat place. Anyway, my criteria for how to count a state or a country is different from Jason's. Jason's criteria is you just have to eat a meal there. Is that correct?
I don't even know if I count that. If I've been through it, I've seen enough.
You've driven through it. It's enough. I have to stay overnight. I have to shower, and I have to use the bathroom. Those are the 3 criteria in order for me to count a state that I've visited. Except, I have done this since then, but I lived on the New York-Vermont border growing up, so I spent a ton of time in Vermont growing up, so obviously I would have counted Vermont even though I had never stayed overnight there, but my sister lives there now, and I've stayed overnight there several times. But
so you can count it.
I can count it, but every state that I've been to, I've spent the night, I've showered, and I've gone to the bathroom. Those are the 3 criteria.
So if you gone camping in a state for 3 days, but you never showered there, that doesn't count? Or you've gone to a state and you've showered there and stayed a night, but you didn't talk to anybody.
You don't have to talk to anybody.
You still count that as visiting the state?
Because there are plenty of states you can go to where you can intentionally not talk to people.
That's every state.
And get away with it.
I feel like that's
everywhere. I mean...
Like Finland, especially. Sorry.
No, but
that's
I
everywhere,
guess...
especially this one particular place. Go on.
No, but I guess what I mean by that is, obviously, I have the gift of gab, and I can talk to anybody, anywhere that I am. And I enjoy talking to people from different places. That's one of the best, to me, that's kind of like the spice of life. No, it's not my criteria, but what I'm saying is, I'm responding to your jab here.
It was just a clarification.
No, but what I'm saying is it'd be very difficult for me to go to, say, New York City and not interact with anybody.
That's not camping.
It'd be very difficult. No, well, listen to me, okay? I'm putting out some criteria. So, but if I were to go to like South Dakota and I were to fly into Sioux Falls and then rent a car and then drive out to go camping somewhere, there's a good chance I might not see another person. So you can't use that as a criteria as to whether or not you would count something. Because go to Alaska. There are places in Alaska where you could literally be by yourself the rest of your life and never see another person if you chose not to.
Yeah, you could also not see a shower.
What
if you take a bath?
I guess that would count. That's weird. I mean, the Canadian is stifling laughter right now.
What if you swim in a river?
I think that counts.
Can I go to the bathroom in the river?
Oh, Lord.
A lot of people do.
Oh, no.
In fact, if there's a river, the city's probably pumping it into that.
It probably is. At least it's probably mildly treated.
Mildly.
I'm trying to think of where I even was. I don't even remember where I was in this conversation.
How many states you've been to? The criteria?
Oh, the criteria.
And we were just trying to
needle at
get
me?
it down to the nitty-gritty.
Thank you so much. No, but those are just my criteria, whereas Jason's criteria, obviously, if he just like, he doesn't even have to enter the state. If he drives past it and looks at it, oh, look, there's New Mexico. I didn't go in, but I'm going to count it.
Google Earth is great. You can just...
I've been to all 50 states. It's awesome. Been to all 215 countries, or whatever it is. Yeah, my criteria are different. I've been to about 33 states, I think. How about you? How many states have you been to?
I'm missing 6.
Wow, that's impressive.
Have you been to Wisconsin?
Yes.
What part of Wisconsin?
I don't know. I drove through it and I stopped at a park.
Okay, wait. Before we talk about the states that you're missing, what are your criteria for counting states that you've been to?
I mean, spend some time there. Like, don't just drive through. But I've had, I don't know. I don't know that I have strict criteria. But I mean, if I've been there and I've walked on it and like I have a receipt instead of just driving.
Well, but when you get gas somewhere, you get a receipt and you walk on the ground.
You don't get a receipt.
Not all the time. We're not going to talk about gasoline in this edition.
Goodness.
We are not talking about gasoline. Okay. Although he did ask you, one of the questions was what octane of fuel you put in your car.
I know. I remember that.
Yes. We are not revisiting the gasoline discussion right now. That is going to be for a much, much later edition of Conversational Chaos. So, okay, sorry. So when you get gas, you get out and you walk around. Unless it's a state where you don't pump your own gas.
Oh, I hate those states.
Oh,
Oregon.
yeah.
Well, actually, it depends where you are in Oregon now. And New Jersey are the only two I can
New Jersey
think
has
of.
now changed, I think.
Are
right?
you sure? It was Oregon that voted on it, but then they're like, jobs.
No,
and
you're right.
so it was up to the cities or districts, whatever you want to call them. So some places you can, some places you can't. So you just got to feel it out.
I think you're right. Jersey is still it's not a self-serve state. An attendant has to pump your gas for you, but they changed the gasoline tax. That's what it was. Because gasoline, living in the mid-Atlantic and, being from the Northeast.
I thought you said no gasoline.
What?
No gas talk.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the
rules.
octane. We're not talking about octane, and we're not talking about engine performance. Okay, those are two caveats I'm putting out there. So, but driving from the Mid-Atlantic up to New York, I would drive through Jersey sometimes. I would take the Jersey Turnpike, and gas was always cheap. It was cheaper than it was in Maryland, and it was way cheaper than it was in New York. They changed that. Christie raised the gas tax, and now it's actually more expensive than it is in Maryland, and probably close to Southern New York equivalent. I think that's what it was. But I remember it was shocking. Just this summer, I drove back up to New York to visit family, and I had to get gas, and I was in Jersey, and I pulled off, and I remember looking at the prices thinking, holy cow, that's really expensive. I mean, it's like the highways in Connecticut. I'm trying to remember there's a parkway in Connecticut that runs parallel to 95.
Oh, is that where you take the Tappan Zee Bridge? Is that road?
The Tappan Zee is 87.
I know.
87 and 287 goes over Tappan Zee Bridge, which you can take 287 over to like 684 that goes over into Connecticut, whatever. I remember driving down this parkway in Connecticut. I didn't need gas, thank God, but they had these little pull-offs, and when gasoline was maybe $2.90 a gallon, it was like $3.70 a gallon. I mean, they were just totally, this is because it's southwestern Connecticut where all the rich people who work in New York City, that's where they live. So they just, literally it's just dragging people over the coals because they can. So states.
Yes.
We're back to it. So you're missing 6. Which 6 states are you missing?
Let's see. I know Rhode Island's one of them. Utah, Arizona, New Mexico.
Oh, geez, you have a whole Southwest theme.
Nevada.
Nevada?
Uh-huh.
It's not Nevada. Nevada.
I don't know how you probably say. And
Okay.
Vermont.
You've missed Vermont?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to go to Vermont.
Well,
Vermont's a
one
beautiful
day.
state. Well, really, all those states are beautiful. I mean, I've never been to New Mexico or Arizona, the 2 states that I'm missing. Utah is actually a really nice state, depending on what part of it you're in. I was in the Salt Lake City area, and it has some beautiful national forests right outside of the city. I mean, the Wasatch and Uinta, I think, are the 2 national forests that are immediately outside of the city of Salt Lake. Beautiful, great place to go hiking. But Vermont's an absolutely beautiful state to visit. I'm biased, of course, but I grew up in a valley in between the Green Mountains in Vermont and the Adirondack Mountains in New York. So
One day I'll get there.
that's beautiful. Do you ski?
I do not. I water ski.
You can't. Well, you can do that in Vermont. They have, it's around Lake Champlain, and there's lots of lakes. I mean, it's a karst topography area, so lots of lakes there.
Right.
Mr. Jason, you're looking at me like you're either a deer in the headlights or you're trying to get me to wrap things up.
One other thing.
Oh my God, this is your thing. Yeah.
Yes.
I
I've been
know
waiting
it's funny.
anxiously for this.
Yeah, Jason has had this topic. He texted me, what is this, over the weekend? So this is several days ago now, saying that he had the greatest idea.
This is last week.
This is last
I've
week?
been sitting on this for a week.
Oh yeah. And he
I
had
haven't
me
told
all
anybody.
he had me all amped up about it, and I totally forgot. So this is going to be great. What is it?
All right, so it ties back into Reddit.
Oh, I love Reddit.
So Reddit's great, but since we've pulled you out of that cave of no technology,
Okay.
we know you haven't had much experience with it.
You should see me trying to fumble around on Instagram and Twitter for this stuff. It's ridiculous.
So there's, just so you have an idea, there's different topics, subreddits that you can post topics to, and it's like a bulletin board. And people post stories on there of whatever they want. So I found some good ones.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Lord.
And I would like for you to read one, because I don't think you've read it yet.
Because he doesn't Reddit.
All right.
So I did clean it up a little bit since we are family friendly.
I
But
can't believe you're going to make
What
me
is
read
the
this.
what subreddit is it from?
I don't know which one it was originally. It was in
Oh.
Best Stories of Reddit.
Oh,
So you may have heard it.
maybe.
Don't read it, just start reading it.
Oh, goodness.
I just saw the first sentence. This is a Reddit story called The Knife.
I had to slightly change the title before it gives it away. But
Okay.
go ahead, please.
My family poops big. Maybe it's genetic, maybe it's our diet, but everyone births giant logs. If anyone has laid a mecha poop, you know that sometimes it won't flush. It lays across the hole in the bottom of the bowl, and the vortex of draining water merely gives it a spin as it mocks you. Growing up, this was a common enough occurrence that our family had a poop knife. It was an old rusty kitchen knife that hung on a nail in the laundry room, only to be used for that purpose. It was normal to walk through the hallway and to have someone call out, "Hey, can you get me the poop knife?" Fast forward to 22. It's been a day or two between poops, and I'm over at my friend's house watching a game. I excuse myself and lay a gigantic turd. I look down and see that it's a sideways one, so I crack the door and call out to my friend. He arrives, and I ask him for his poop knife. My what? Your poop knife, I say. I need to use it, please. What on God's green earth is a poop knife? Obviously, he has one, but maybe he calls it by a more delicate name. A fecal cleaver. A dung divider. A guanoclave. I explain what it is I want and why I want it. He starts giggling, then laughing. Then lots of people start laughing. It turns out the music stopped and everyone heard my pleas through the door. It also turns out that none of them had poop knives. It was just my disturbed family with their incredible bowels. I told this to my wife last night, who was amused and horrified at the same time. Turns out that she did not know what a poop knife was and had been using the old rusty knife hanging in the utility closet as a basic utility knife. Thankfully, she didn't cook with it, but used it to open Amazon boxes. She will be getting her own utility knife now. No idea why Jason wanted me to read that story, but that is really funny. I do not have a poop knife. Do you have a poop knife?
No, but thank you for clarifying.
Yes. Okay. Do you have a poop knife?
No. You did well reading that.
Yeah,
That's one of the gems of Reddit.
I love Reddit so much.
That's just a terrible. It's funny. I'm not gonna lie. That's funny.
So I printed this out this morning so you could read it.
Mhm.
Except I printed it wrong, so I have like 20 copies of it. And it was still printing when I
Just
left.
hand them out to
Oh
people.
my god, at your house?
So my wife will wake up with 20 copies of that.
That was pretty funny. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the Canadian. Thank you very much for being our guest on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It was fun, wasn't it?
It was.
And you were all nervous coming in here. I know. It is a lot of fun. That's why we keep doing it. It's a fun thing to do. But I want to thank all the listeners for listening to another edition of Conversational Chaos. We look forward doing our next edition, and we will let you all know when our editions are posted via Twitter, via Instagram, via Facebook, via freshscreens.com on the podcast tab. So that will be all for us today. Thank you very much for listening.